Welcome to Queers Quills, the official podcast. I'm audiobook narrator Kirt Graves. Every episode, I invite an attending author or narrator to join me for a one-on-one conversation about their lives and their art, so attendees and readers from across the world can get to know them not only as professionals, but as people. Joining me today is Rachel Runya Katz. Rachel is a contemporary romance author living in Seattle with her partner, their cat, and far too many houseplants. She has a PhD in biomedical engineering, which is minimally helpful for this endeavor. Her books center queer Jews of color and their layered lives of joy, sadness, and love. Welcome to the podcast, Rachel.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
It is my pleasure. So let's start at the beginning. What has been your author journey?
I have been a voracious reader my whole life, but I didn't really read a ton of adult romance. I read actually a lot of YA romance when I was in middle school, but I didn't read a ton of adult romance until the pandemic. And I think it's just sort of, a genre convention to have a happy ending. So you can have very angsty or very light romance. No matter what happens, there's going to be a happy ending if it's a genre romance. And I really needed that during that time. And so I just started reading so much. And a big part of it was actually, I had read Jasmine Guillory's books prior to the pandemic, a couple of them, because I was at an airport, had forgotten a book, and I saw this book that had like a visibly Latino man and Black woman on the cover. And I was like, oh, I don't remember, like last time I had sort of checked in with romance from major publishers, not from specialized imprints. That was not something you were seeing a lot.
And you weren't finding those in the airport.
Yeah, you were absolutely not. It was not a major book club pick. It was not that. And so I picked it up, really enjoyed it, but I was still mostly reading literary fiction. And then, pandemic hit, I reread her book, The Proposal, and then I went out and just bought a ton of racially diverse romance and was reading like almost a book a day for a bit. And then I was in graduate school at the time, and we had to go to lab in like very short shifts so that we weren't overlapping with people to not spread COVID. And I would just go home and do nothing but read. And then I started writing, and I got very lucky that Thank You for Sharing, which kind of was born from that time. I think it's really obvious. Like, it opens on an airplane. There's this like friend group that hangs out in a group of 4 people at a bar. Like, this was such like, I'm stuck in my house wish fulfillment, but I'm really lucky I got a deal from that book, and it was a 2-book deal. So I had to then, after graduating and starting a full-time job, I had to actually figure out how to make time to write my second book. And I'm not sure, like, if I hadn't gotten a deal off my first book, I'm not sure that I would have figured out how to integrate it into my life in that way. So I'm really glad I did.
Yeah. Well, and it's clear then that not only was it important to you to represent people of color in these books, but to also have some queer rep. So how did that come about?
Yeah, I think so. I actually hadn't been reading as much queer romance. And the reason was because I was picking up books that had people of color on the cover. And at the time, and still it's true, that from the big fives, the majority of queer romance that gets published is white queer romance. And I did read some, like I read Casey McQuiston and Allison Cochran, both of which had people of color on the cover. They were interracial, but both written by white people. And I really enjoyed both of those. And I think it was just sort of this, like, I had read Casey McQuiston. I had read Rachel and Solomon, who is a Jewish author of straight romance. I had read Jasmine Guillory. And I was kind of like, well, these are all these different parts of my identity, and they're able to get published. And I'm not seeing something that's about people with like kind of all of the similar intersecting identities to me. And something I also noticed was a lot of interracial romance that was popular, whether it was written by a person of color or not, one of the main characters was white. And I myself am in an interracial relationship where neither of us are white. We're actually both multiracial. And I also wanted to write that. So I ended up just kind of like, I don't know, this is what I want to read about. So I'm going to write it. And my first book has one of the main characters is a bisexual Black Jewish woman, and the other is a ostensibly heterosexual Korean Jewish man. And that was just like a fun way for me to kind of like integrate. And I had some friends growing up who were half Korean. A lot of the people that I end up writing have backgrounds that are somewhat similar to people I know. Like the character isn't inspired directly by people I know, but having backgrounds that are similar to people I know allows me to do like not only research on the internet, but like actually talk to people and like try to see how best I can capture elements of their experience. And so it's like it's really fun. I've had really nice reactions. Like my one that comes out in the fall is it's between a Black Jewish woman and an Indo-Trinidadian man. And one of my friends from college is Indo-Trinidadian, and he was excited that I wanted to write that. And, you know, I sort of think about character not so much in terms of representation. It's not that I don't have any beef with like using that language to talk about my books, but sometimes I do feel like I personally want to move away from it a little bit, because I think it can create this, like, if I have a Black Jewish lesbian in my books, if people are only viewing that through the lens of representation, they might take that character to be what I think like Black Jewish lesbians writ large are like. Right. And that's never really my intention. Like, I want my books to reflect the world I live in, which includes people of like these intersecting identities. But I'm not trying to say like, this is the treatise on Black Jewish lesbianism. It's not. Like, it's meant to be one very specific character. So yeah, I know that's sort of like a maybe overly complicated answer to that, but I don't really necessarily like to talk about my books in terms of representation so much as just like, these are different facets of the characters that inform them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because how do you achieve just like communicating people in a world, in this case, in the world of publishing, where like everybody wants you to categorize what it is that you're trying to sell. And there are people who are looking for that thing because, like you, they haven't been able to find themselves in books. I mean, my experience is now very different than it was even 10 years ago. But like now I can find some white gay guys in a book. That's easy. I can look on the shelves and see that. But like 10 years ago, that was not the case. And I would have died for somebody to like just make it so clear that that's who this is. But at the same time, yeah, we're all different.
Yeah, it's a great conundrum, and I'm glad I'm not in marketing.
Yeah.
So I don't have to make the decision. But I think it's just something I've been trying to be more conscious about as I talk about my own books, because that's like, I guess, the sphere I have control over. I am upfront about who the people are. Oftentimes it's honestly like relatively obvious from their names. It becomes pretty obvious like pretty quickly in the book based on their characterizations, both like their kind of internal monologues and cultural descriptions and physical descriptions, all of that. And so I'm not like, I don't begrudge anybody who, you know, tags me in a post and is like, this book had like this, and this rep. Like, I think that's really, I think that actually can be a great space for it, because it allows, you know, like it's like a bookstagrammer communicating the representation they saw there for other bookstagrammers to then be like, oh, if I'm looking for this kind of book or a book that has this in it, this is what I should go for. It's just my personal view that like we can sometimes get into this trap of like, there's a positive and a negative. A positive can be like, you know, I remember being on Tumblr and like voraciously reading whatever or watching whatever queer media people, you know, presented to me. But then it would be like this huge variation in content, right? It's like people are like queer media list, and it's like The Handmaid's Tale and Love, Simon, and you know, and yeah. You might be somebody who can enjoy both. And actually, in many ways, I am somebody who can enjoy both, but you aren't necessarily, right? And I think it could create like this kind of feeling, if you're really starved for representation and then you finally find it and then you don't like the character. what is the feel like? Are you going to have just a like, I maybe don't like that book character, or are you going to have a like, this representation is bad and wrong? And, you know, I'm not saying like we should all be able to have conversations about representation and about whether, you know, an author is being thoughtful in how they portray characters, particularly from different cultures from themselves. I think that's like completely valid and a useful conversation. But I also think that like, I don't like to be in the trap of like representation in part because it's like, well, then what's good representation? Does good representation mean this character makes good choices the whole time? Because I'm not interested in writing a book about somebody who makes good choices the whole time.
Yes.
Like it's not interesting to me. Like my upcoming book, I mean, my previous book, it's like revealed, I think it's early enough in the book. But whenever you're ready, it's sapphic. It's early enough in the book that I think this isn't that bad of a spoiler. But so one of the MCs is a lesbian who has a twin brother who's straight. And the other one is a bisexual woman. And the bisexual woman and the straight twin brother actually like lost their virginities to one another in high school. That's like a messy decision to like sleep with your best friend who you're in love with's brother. That's like not, you know, I'm not saying, but like that was
real.
The story. Yeah, but real, right? Like people sometimes make bad decisions. People sometimes make, and actually it's also
especially in high school. Jesus Christ.
Right. Thank you. I think that like, and it was really useful for creating tension and drama in the book. And like, that was the kind of book I want to read. And I don't want to be in a trap of like, if I'm calling this bisexual representation and like this is what it is to be bisexual, I don't want people to think that I'm saying like all bisexuals want to sleep with their female love interest twin brother. That's not the point of it. Like this is specifically these three characters hyper specific dynamic. And like my book that comes out this fall, Isn't It Obvious? It's an MF book, but it's bi for bi. And they meet when the man is climbing out of the woman's bedroom window after having slept with her male roommate. And like, again, my idea is not that all bisexual men ghost men or something. Like that's not the point, right? Like the idea is that it's like a specific characters. And I think for me, moving away from talking about my books in terms of representation has allowed me to, it's freeing to think about the characters this way and not feel like I don't want to be writing in like over the top justifications of their behavior just to like be clear that like, oh, I actually don't think that this was good behavior. You know what I mean? Because I feel like when you're I think sometimes, you know, sometimes people read things in bad faith. That happens to everybody. Nobody can do anything about it. But sometimes I feel like when an author is writing like a straight white couple and they make bad decisions, I think maybe fewer people are like assuming that individual character they're writing is supposed to be like what all straight white women are
of course not, because there are a million representations of straight white people.
Right. So
they don't hold that burden in the same way that somebody who's writing a marginalized person who has not been represented over and over and over again, they don't carry the weight in the same way.
Yeah. And I think that's like, for me, I want to unburden myself, at least for my creative process. I'll still be upfront about what's in the book. I might not talk about it in that exact same terms. And then if other people want to talk about that in those terms about my books, that's totally fine. It's just like, I think where I have tried to move myself. This is part of my own author journey.
Yeah. Well, that's what we're here to talk about.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, to me, it mirrors the experience I have had trying to explain to people the queer experience. And like, when you get the question, well, why do there have to be so many different types of queer people? It's like, we used to be just gay and straight. Now there's bi and pan and demi. And it's like, here's the thing, dude. Do I wish we lived in a world where those labels didn't matter and we didn't need them? Yeah. But right now, we need the labels so we can find each other. And we know we're not alone. So if you think it's silly that we have all these individual labels describing who we are, then ignore it. I don't care. I was like, but we need it for now. And hopefully someday, probably not in my lifetime, nobody will have to define their sexuality. It won't fucking matter.
That would be lovely. But yeah,
It
it's
would be
true. It's not the
lovely.
world. It's not the world we're in. I always laugh about there's like one reviewer who like this person has tagged a lot of people who write like marginalized characters in reviews that like basically just complain about how many marginalized characters there are in it, and it always makes me kind of laugh when people when I've like seen a review that's on the lines of like, this book is trying so hard to be diverse. It's just like, well, that character has like identities I have. Is my existence trying so hard to be diverse? Like, it's so funny to me because I'm like, I think you're just not processing that this is like what the world is for a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what's going on. So, you mentioned a couple already of like the books that you were reading that sort of inspired you to write yourself. Were there any other like influences that you've had or things that are inspiring you right now?
I think I always have trouble answering that because I think I'm like absorbing all the media that's around me, and then I'll maybe think of afterward that there was like something that was influencing me. Like my upcoming book isn't obvious. One of the main characters, Yael, is a librarian, and she also has this podcast on the side where she kind of critically reviews books from high school reading lists, especially focusing on ones that like, not always, but ones that might have sort of like a conservative lens and sort of critiquing that.
Sure.
And I like came up with this because I was like, well, what's a podcast that's sort of about books that would like work with her? And like, she's a high school librarian, so she would have familiarity. And then I was like, oh yeah, like If Books Could Kill is a podcast that I love.
Yeah.
That's about books that like, it's very much not fiction. Like, it's focused on sort of like pop science nonfiction. They call it like airport books, like airport bestsellers, where they critique them. And some of them they're critiquing on a just like, this book is kind of silly lens, and some of them on a like, this book is actually really conservative and dangerous lens. And it's like, yeah, that's like pretty similar in conceit to the podcast that Yael has, but I wasn't like actually thinking about it when I like made it up. So yeah, I think we are all but a reflection of all the art we consume.
Yeah. Love If Books Could Kill. Co-signing that recommendation. Go listen.
Good.
Michael Hobbs's other podcast, Maintenance Phase, is also something I love. Aubrey Gordon is one of my heroes. Like, adore her.
Big fan of all of those. 5 to 4 is the other co-host of If Books Could Kill, Peter's other podcast. Also love that. There's actually there's a part in my next book where, because it's set in Portland, where Yael talks about how she once saw Aubrey Gordon at a Costco and like freaked out, but like didn't go up to her because she was too nervous.
I love that. Do you have to get permission when you reference a public figure like that?
I don't think so, because there's the whole thing, like, this was used fictionally, and it's not like I put Aubrey Gordon, like, in the book. Like, there's no dialogue or thoughts or opinions from Aubrey. It's just, like, one character's like, I saw this person and thought it was so cool. Yeah, I think if I would probably want to check with legal if I was, like, making there be like an on-page meeting with her.
For sure. Yeah, that makes more sense. But it's interesting. I was like, wait, do you have to clear that? Like, because they're like, they are public. And also, it's just like a name.
Yeah.
Like, there's probably more than one Aubrey Gordon in the world. But yeah, I love that. So your next book actually comes out on my anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Well, congratulations to you. You wrote a book. All I did was get married, and now it's like a few years later. So isn't it obvious? Is your next book coming out in the fall? Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah.
What you're allowed to?
Yeah. Oh, I'm allowed to talk about it. Well, because it's on NetGalley now. Yeah. So it's sort of people always say a You've Got Mail style. So like the hidden identity trope. Of course, that predates You've Got Mail. And also, fun fact, I've never seen that movie. So we can call it, a Cinderella story style, if you want, like the Chad, Michael Murray, and Hilary Duff movie. Okay. It's like that, where they're talking online and don't know that they also know each other in person and don't like each other. That was really fun to write. And so, yeah, the setup is that the Ravi sneaks out of Yael's bedroom, so she hates him. And then he shows up at her queer book club for the high school students after school as a volunteer because he was looking for things to do. And he had moved to Portland pretty recently prior to it to help his brother co-parent his niece. And they also, so they have that and they're like, there's a lot of tension. But then also she has this podcast and it sort of opens after she had a big, like a sort of mental health episode because she was so overwhelmed with the podcast and her book club and work. And so her best friend convinces her to hire a producer editor. And who she hires is Ravi, but she doesn't know because Ravi's actually his middle name. And so from his resume, it had his like legal first name, and she is using a pseudonym. So he doesn't know that it's her. And so they're having
such a modern day twist on that. Yes. Yeah. I love it.
It's fun. I think it's fun. So yeah. I had a great time writing it. And I'm really excited for more people to read it in the fall.
Awesome. Well, I have also invited you here to play a game. Are you ready for that?
Yes, very much so.
All right, so the rules of our game are simple. I have a deck of cards, and on each card is a question. The questions are aiming to learn more about you personally. So some are biographical, some are hypothetical, some are just plain silly. But I will not be picking the questions you're going to answer. Fate is going to do that for us. So I'm going to deal 3 cards every round. You choose one, and whatever card you pick, you're agreeing to answer, with a couple of exceptions. So if a question comes along that you don't want to answer, you have 2 opportunities to switch things up. Okay. So you can turn the tables on me one time, forcing me to answer the question.
That's so fun.
Or you can also discard the personal question in favor of a more bookish question from our white deck, but then you're only dealt 1 card and you have to answer that one.
Okay. All right, good to know.
Ready to go?
Yes.
Here we go. Card 1, card 2, or card 3?
Card 3.
Have you ever been electrocuted?
No, I have not.
Well, that was easy.
Yeah.
Good for you. I've only been electrocuted one time, and it's because I touched an electric fence at my cousin's horse farm.
Oh my gosh. That's scary.
I mean, it's just enough to make the horse uncomfortable, which is more voltage than a human wants to touch, but it's not going to kill you or anything. Yeah. But it's unpleasant.
Yeah, that does sound unpleasant. I was a very cautious child about a lot of stuff because it freaked me out. So, yeah.
Yeah. I also feel like if I had a superpower, it would be static electricity because in the winter, the lights flicker when I get shocked. Things, and I mean that literally. One of the authors who's coming to the conference, we used to share an office, and one time I got shocked. She was like, "Did the lights just flicker?" And I was like, "They did."
You're just a particularly good human conductor.
I just create a lot of static electricity when it's dry, when the air is dry. So maybe I've been electrocuted a lot more times if you consider that. So, all right, card 1, card 2, or card 3?
Card 1.
What is the weirdest place you've had sex?
Ooh, it was not fully sex, but in there's a hotel that has a bank vault kind of thing.
Oh,
in the bank vault kind of thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's the perfect amount of detail. Thank you very much. That's good. All right. Card 1, card 2, or card 3?
Card 2. I guess I'll do all of them. Yeah.
Which word or phrase do you most overuse?
Well, in this last one, a little bit. I said a little bit way too many times, and my copy editor pointed that out, and it was really embarrassing. Now, when they send that back to you, do they count? Or is it just you did a lot? Or is it it was 42 times? No, she told me exactly how many. No, she fully said the number because I think she had been commenting on them and then was I'm just going to search how many there are. And was girl. And I edited down a lot of them, but I kept a lot of them because I do think I like my writing to feel sort of conversational. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, you can't just erase all of them. No, they're load-bearing a little bit. Yeah, there you go. All right. Card 1, card 2, or card 3? Card 1. Ooh. If your office had a show and tell for adults,
What thing would you be proud to display?
I guess my books.
Yeah.
That's been my fun fact now at my office, like when I have to do a fun fact. After enough people kind of knew about them, I was like, yeah, that's fun. People think it's wild when you're a scientist and also do a creative thing.
That is so... I'm jealous that you have a thing. And granted, in my line of work now, I don't have to do a lot of like get to know you things, but when I do, I still feel so like right back in high school. I'm like, I don't know what's interesting about me. I don't consider anything about me interesting.
It's really given me, it's made it, I don't have to think about it. Just say, I'm a published romance novelist. People are like, oh, what? And then we just kind of, I try to just move on. It doesn't
That might be the
work.
best reason I've heard yet to write a book.
Yeah, there you go. Now you have a fun fact.
Now I might have to do it. Card 1, card 2, or card 3?
I'll do card 1 again.
Okay. What strange thing would you like to happen at your funeral to make people laugh?
That's so interesting. I don't know. It depends on how young I die. I've been to a lot of funerals. I think there've been some good like laughs out of just sort of silly stories about like the deceased interacting with other people or like a quirk they had. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe my partner could tell a story about how I put things away sometimes, or like I set things down in like very precarious positions. Like I'll put my phone on the counter and like almost half of it is hanging off the counter and it's just like balanced that way. Yeah, I feel like that could be a good silly thing about me at my funeral.
Do you do that on purpose?
Nope. I literally just put things down and don't think about it. And now I'm looking and I'm like, my headphones case is half off of this. I just like don't think about this at all. But yeah, and it balances. One time he took a picture, I did it with like the flour in the pantry, which I should not have done that. Sometimes I'm like, this is not that serious. Like it's balanced. What's the difference? But yeah, with a whole thing of flour, that was bad.
I love that. I also love that he took a picture.
Yeah, he was like, you need to know that you've done this when I opened the pantry too.
I love it. Card 1, card 2, or card 3?
Card 3.
What is your most treasured possession?
Ooh. I have like a folder of just like notes or birthday cards and stuff. And like specifically ones from 2 of my friends who died like pretty young. So those are my most treasured.
That's beautiful. Card 1, card 2, or card 3?
Card 2.
Oh, what characteristic are you most known for?
Oh, wow. I think it depends on like the context. I feel like you're always most notorious for whatever you do that stands out from whatever the context you're in is. So like, yeah, at work. Well, we just had to do this personality test thing at work. It's like the HBDI, Herman Brain something. Okay, yeah. And they give you like these like highlighted traits, these attributes you have, and they kind of fall into 4 different categories. And then like there's highlighted traits that are like about you, and then they put a diamond next to the 2 traits that are your most dominant ones. And I got 2 diamonds, and one was speaker and the other one was talker.
Which, to be fair, are 2 different talents.
They very much are, but it was just so funny to me that this is like, we have diagnosed you. You speak and you also talk.
Yeah. I see in my relationship, I am the speaker and my husband is the talker.
There you go. Go.
Like I'll get up in front of a room, no problem. But small talk, I will run away.
I will talk to anybody at any time in any context.
Yeah, see, there you go. All right, I think we have time for one more round. So card 1, card 2, or card 3?
Card 3.
Card 3. What are you currently curious about?
Wow, what a fun question. I have to think about how to answer that. I like Dodie. Wow. I'm like so. Well, I have to design my wedding stationery. So I guess I'm curious to learn a little bit more about how letterpress works, because my partner is really into letterpress. And by me having to design it, I mean, he'll do a lot of that. with the person, and I will also have input about what I like, but this is definitely more his skill set. But yeah, I'm curious to see how that works.
I love learning new like creative softwares, or even like my latest thing has been 3D printing. So like I've really enjoyed like CAD programs that I'd never explored before. So yeah, that's right up my alley. And congratulations on the wedding.
Thank you.
How cool. All right. Well, that's all we have time for. I feel like we could talk longer, but thank you for taking the time to chat with me and for doing the podcast. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us, listeners, for Queers and Quills, the official podcast. If you're already signed up to attend Queers and Quills, make sure to say hello to me and Rachel at the Oregon Convention Center in May. And if you're not, follow Queers and Quills on Instagram so you can see all the fun we're having this year and hear about ticket availability in the future. Until next time, I'm Kirt Graves, and I hope you're having a very gay day.
I love that.
Thank you. Queers and Quills, the official podcast, is produced and hosted by Kirt Graves, in coordination with Mahogany Mail and Marley Valentine. All copyrighted material is shared with permission. Music and sound effects are licensed through Storyblocks Audio. All opinions shared are those of the individuals and do not reflect the positions or policies of any company or organization with which they happen to be associated.